I just got done watching a video with Matt Walsh. If you don't know who he is, he's a goofball. He's a nut job, and he's got squirrely religious views on marriage. And so I want to talk about it, and I'm going to try to be nice. I find Matt Walsh very condescending. Got that douchery vibe to him. I feel like, and I've seen him in a lot of different interviews, and I've heard him even on podcasts, and he just comes across as pompous. That's just how I receive him, and I don't think it's just because I disagree with him vehemently. Did I say that right? Anyway, I just find him just moronic with his views on marriage, because clearly they're coming from a religious perspective. I just saw a recent interview, and I want to address a few things that he said. He was talking to someone who wasn't religious at all and doesn't have a background in religion, and so some of the things that he was saying, this person wasn't able to rebut those things because they don't know the scripture. And so, I'll be honest, it irritated me. That this buffoon Matt Walsh was saying just some absolutely ridiculous things that are just outdated, archaic, and wrong. Frankly, I find what he was saying to just be absolutely wrong. Anyway, my name's Timmy Gibson, former fundamental evangelical Bible thumping, tongue talking pastor. Spent 30 years doing that. 48 years being a Christian. Really 55 years. I was born on the church pew, as they say. I mean, literally, I was days old and in church the following Sunday. And that was my whole life. And I started my deconstruction process about 6 years ago, is usually what I say. I mean, I had doubts and questions earlier on, of course. I think all Christians do. Now, I would consider myself agnostic, atheist, as it depends upon the Bible God, as it relates to the Bible God. I definitely don't believe in that God at all. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So I'm gonna really try to be nice in just a few things that I want to talk about in regards to Matt Walsh's perspective on what marriage is. And let me just say one nice thing about him, because everything else I'm going to say is not going to be all that nice. He's got a nice beard. Okay. Matt Walsh, he does have a nice beard. I've wondered if it was like a press on, stick on. Wouldn't that be weird? But anyway, Matt Walsh does have a nice beard. And let me just say this too, because I am going to say some very derogatory things. I'm trying to be nice here. I'm sure in person maybe he's a nice guy. Maybe people find me condescending and arrogant too. And but of course that would be typically Christians think that, and so I get it. So maybe I'm slanted, because if I believed like Matt Walsh, maybe I would find him like, oh, like great. But I don't see the world like he does. And I genuinely, really, really do. And honestly, even when I was a Christian, I would have disagreed with him on this. So Matt Walsh defines marriage as a covenant between a man and a woman. That's what, and he gets it from his religious views. In one interview he did, I thought this was just fascinating, because the person said, "Well, you get that where, from the Bible?" And he said, "Yes, I'm a Christian, and I get my definition of marriage from the Bible," which I just thought to myself, the Bible is where you get your definition of marriage. So we're gonna unpack that. But I'm like, you're taking a definition from an archaic, outdated book of people that were uneducated as it relates to like what we have now as an education. They were ignorant of the things that we know now. There's so many things that they were completely ignorant on. And so you're going to pull that definition out and say that one rings true forever. I mean, that's just absolutely ridiculous. You're going to take your definition of marriage from a book that supports slavery? Come on, Matt. Really? Come on. That is just absolutely insane. That Okay, let's talk about it. I wrote down some things here just because I wanted to cover certain things that he said. Again, he takes his definition of marriage from the Bible, an outdated ancient book written by uneducated people. Okay, Matt, if you want to take your definition of marriage from that old, outdated, moronic book that's a fiction, a work of fiction, you just go right ahead. So I find that part weird. And then the other part that he said in this interview, she said, well, can you understand it, outside of if you remove the religious thing? And he said, well, I wouldn't even be the same person if I didn't have a relationship with Jesus, if I wasn't a Christian, or however he kind of said it. I'm not quoting it exactly. And his answer, I thought to myself, because I used to say that, like when I was a fundamental Christian, I would say, oh, I can't even imagine what I would be like without God. I would just be whatever. And and I'm making some assumptions here. Maybe he did not mean this, but I took that to mean what it meant for me when I used to say it, and also when other people that I knew would say it because they were my friends and we would talk about this stuff when I was a Christian. Basically, that I would be unhinged. If I didn't have God, I would be like pillaging. I would be stealing. I would be a thief. I would be wild. I would be just unhinged. I would be immoral. Okay, well, I'm not a believer. I'm agnostic, atheist. It relates to the Bible God, and I have said this on almost every YouTube video I've put out there. I'm a better person today than I was as a Christian. I really am. I am. That is a true statement for me. Now, I've always been kind. I've always been a nice guy. I mean, that part honestly really hasn't changed. But the piece that has changed is, one, I don't have all the guilt and shame, but I am honest because I have nothing to hide. When I was a Christian, I had to hide. But now, as an unbeliever, a non-believer, I don't have all those rules: no cussing, no dancing, no having sex before marriage, no masturbation, all the things. I don't have to. I don't concern myself with anything like that because those are just stupid man-made rules that don't make you Christian or not, or religious or not, or a good person or not, for sure. Some of the best people I've ever met are atheist or agnostic. And okay, I have some great Christian friends too. I'm not just slamming, I'm not saying all Christians are bad. That absolutely would be not true. I have a lot of great Christian friends. And then I have a lot of, I've witnessed a lot of completely immoral, wild Christian friend, people that I've known over my life. And same in any, I've met non-believers that were poopy. So again, I've said this in other videos. People are people, okay? Whether they're religious or not, they're just people. The thing about religious people, again, coming from the religious vibe that I came from, that evangelical fundamental, the Bible's literally true. Noah actually built an ark and all that stuff. And those people were just like everybody else, except they weren't honest about it. I mean, just look at all the scandals. Come on. Open your frickin' eyes and be honest. Can't you just be honest? It's just scandals run rampant in the evangelical church. I mean, I can't tell. It's almost every day I wake up, I hear about some new pastor, new evangelist, some Christian leader that's just doing some insane, immoral stuff. It's just unbelievable. You would think that should be coming out from the unbelievers. That's what that kind of behavior should only be for those that aren't Christian. It's not true. Christians are doing all the same stuff that everybody else on planet Earth is doing. Except Christians lie about it. They hide, they lie, they deceive, and on and on. Okay. So when Matt says, he wouldn't even be the same person uh, if he wasn't a Christian, I would disagree with him and say, Matt, you would still be, if you're a good dude, which I don't even know him. He could be a great dude. He could be a swindler. I don't know. I don't know him personally. Like, again, I'm only reading how I see him come across online, and he's very pompous. He's just douchery. He's very douchebaggy. He is. That's how he comes across to me. That's how he's always come across to me. Even when I was still quasi-Christian, I found Matt Walsh to be just condescending and just douchebaggery. So, but maybe, we'd have to ask his wife or his children what he's like. Maybe he's a wonderful, sweet man. Maybe he's very kind and precious to his wife and very thoughtful and caring and very a good father. I don't know. Maybe he is. I'm just telling you how I receive him when I see him in interviews. He's just got this air of superiority kind of a guy. And again, maybe I'm coming across that same way. So maybe that's why it bothers me so bad about Matt Walsh, is maybe I have some of those same tendencies and traits. And so he's rubbing me the wrong way because I'm seeing part of me in him. Maybe that's true. Okay. All right. So without God, I think he would still be a good dude. But it's like the way he said that. It's like, so without God, you're not a good dude. So the only thing keeping you from not cheating on your wife, not beating your kids, not stealing, not being a crook, is that the fear of hell, a fear of disappointing God, a fear of judgment, a fear of not being pleasing to God? Really? If that's what keeps you living on the straight and narrow, by all means, please stay Christian. I would hate to see what the world would look like if Matt Walsh wasn't a Christian. If he was, more reasonable, using reason, more logical, intellectual honesty, and on and on. I can't even imagine what the world would be like if Matt Walsh was kind, tenderhearted, sympathetic, and all those things. At least if he came across that way, I don't even know what the world would be like. Okay, so the idea of getting your definition of anything from a book that says light was created before the sun and the moon, from a book that says that the moon is the lesser light that lights the night. Well, that's not true. The moon isn't a light. The moon is simply reflecting the light of the sun, number one. Number two, just yesterday, I saw the full moon in the sky during the day. So, okay, that's wrong. That's not right. So you're going to take your definition on marriage, which is more of a modern thing. And here's what he said. He said that I'm sticking with the definition of what marriage has been for thousands of years. Okay, hey, Matt, for thousands of years previous, slavery was like condoned. I mean, it was what we did. And we've realized that that's wrong and outdated. And so we grew past that, right? We're in a modern age. Our understanding, we were barbaric back then. Someone steals, you cut their hand off. Someone cheats, well, you only punish the woman. You don't punish the guy because the woman is his property. And you stone her. Like you're getting your definition of what marriage is from that book? Come on, Matt. Get real, dude. For real. Come on. You're like doing that thing that Christians do. Picking and choosing. You're picking, well, yeah, okay, but that doesn't mean that, okay, well, that doesn't, that in the time, what they meant then means this, and we just don't, but the definition of marriage, no, that sticks. No, we're going to stick with what it said 2,000 years ago. And not to mention, when we talk about definition of marriage from the Bible, when human history goes back some 300,000 plus years, and you're going to get a definition for marriage from some book that was written, this doesn't even make sense, Matt. It doesn't even make sense. When you really use your brain and think about it, clearly there were people lived in villages, communities, And the women would sleep with all of the guys for protections because they didn't know which seed created the baby. That way she could have the protection of all the men in the tribe to be protected. I mean, the definition of marriage, like that, Matt, I don't know how, I know how your brain works because I used to be an evangelical, and what you say would have made sense to me, 15 years ago. That would have literally made sense to me, and I'd have been like, yeah, Matt, you're right. We get our definition of marriage from the book, from the Bible. God gives us the definition of marriage, and then Jesus confirms it in the New Testament. I mean, I get it. I would have probably 100% agreed with you. But just, I mean, let's do this. What is the definition of marriage? What is the definition of marriage? Well, let's just look it up. My little handy iPad here. What is the definition of marriage? Okay, the definition of marriage. Hey, Matt, by the way, we live in the year 2024. Just FYI, I didn't know if you knew that. We're not living in like BCE times, back right. We're in the year 2024. So we're going to go ahead and use a 2024 definition of what marriage is. How about that? How about we, how about we, kind of like everything else, right? Like way back when, they didn't have soap. Way back when, there were so many different things that we've advanced since then, Matt. Just FYI, like the world has advanced. We know more now. And so here's the definition of marriage, and this is out of the Webster's Dictionary: the state of being unified as spouses in a consensual and contractual relationship recognized by the law. There you go. So a man and a man can be married, a woman and a woman can be married, and it's just like any other marriage. Plus, when people say, well, how it affects marriage if we allow gay marriage, blah, 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 blah. Oh, people, the rhetoric, man, the rhetoric, it's just absolutely ridiculous. If Fred marries Mike, it's not going to affect my heterosexual relationship with my wife at all. It'll just benefit them to be able to have a contractual, consensual relationship recognized by the law. And there's lots of benefits there. Why wouldn't I, as a human being, want other human beings to have the same blessing, if you will, of marriage recognized by the law? Like, I just find that even evil. Like, I find that comes across so evil that he wouldn't want two consenting adults to have the same benefit of marriage as he and his wife do. Absolutely ridiculous. Also, Matt talks about, what is marriage? It's because a man and a woman can procreate. They can have kids. And then he corrected himself and he said the potential. Okay, guess what, Matt? Some people can't have kids. There is no potential for kids. So does their marriage not count if it's a man with a woman and she's barren and she can't have kids? So is that not legit? Like, that's not a real marriage because they can't have kids? You better not say, well, they can adopt, because guess what? Mike and Fred can adopt too. So can Sally and Shelly. They can adopt too. Like, come on. And we need people to adopt. We need people to adopt kids that don't have a home. So what better home than to be with Fred and Steve, who love each other genuinely and care about each other and are committed to each other before the law in a consensual, contractual relationship with all the benefits that come from marriage. Come on. So that's just, or what about if a couple doesn't want to have kids? Well, the potential of having kids is there. Oh, come on. I remember someone, this was years ago, back even when I was a Christian, but I was definitely started beginning to see this then. Even when I was an evangelical Christian, I began to see that, wait a minute, I should support gay marriage. These are two adults that are consenting. And if they love each other, it can be in a monogamous, committed relationship with each other. Who cares if it's two men? Who cares if it's two women? And this was when I was a Christian. Now, that got me in a lot of hot water with the evangelical group that I was in. That's why I said F you and I left that group. But like, if two people, what if they don't want to have kids? What if they just want to be together? So does that mean it's not a real marriage if they don't want to have kids? Not only that, I remember again, my mind went somewhere else. When I was a Christian, I remember people saying, when they would argue with me about gay marriage, they'd say, "Well, it's it ruins marriage somehow." I forget how they worded it exactly, but what I mainly remember is the response. I thought, you know what, the biggest enemy of marriage isn't gay marriage, but rather, um, whoop, I should have turned my phone. Uh, is rather divorce. Now, listen, no judgment on those that have been divorced. I'm in that camp. I've been there. It's heart wrenching. It's gut wrenching. But man, in many cases, not always, but in some cases, it's the best thing that two people can do. If two people aren't compatible and they're not creating a happy, loving, wonderful space, the best thing they can do is get divorced and find someone that they can be in a happy, healthy, wonderful marriage with. 100%. Now, I'm not, again, I've said this before in other videos. I'm not in favor of divorce. If you can work it out, do everything in your power to see if you can reconcile and if you can come back together and stay together. If it can be worked out, if there is truly love there, you rekindle it and make it work. But as many people know, that doesn't always work out. And honestly, that's sometimes not even something that should be pursued. So the biggest enemy of marriage is not gay marriage, it's divorce or just two people getting married for the wrong reasons. It, and there's a million reasons to get married for the wrong reasons. One, if you have a kid together, that's no reason to get married. If your parents are pushing you to get married, or if you think I'm getting older and I should get married, or this person actually likes me and no one else has. The only reason you should get married is A, there's love there. You love each other. You're attracted to each other. There's chemistry, there's compatibility, and you're willing to commit yourself to a loving relationship where what's important to your partner is important to you, and what's important to you is important to your partner. That's the key to a happy, healthy relationship. So yeah, Matt, I don't know what you're living in ancient times, and I would like to go into all of this, but I literally just watched a Matt Walsh video and it just irritated me so bad that I jotted down just a couple things and wanted to do this video. But when I think about, again, getting any kind of a definition about this world from an ancient, outdated book that has errors, contradictions, and things that are just clearly wrong or impossible or magical or weird, that why would you try to get anything from this ancient, outdated book and apply it to the year 2024? Now, I'll be the first one to tell you there's some good stuff in the Bible. I have no problem saying that. I still sometimes will read it and enjoy certain fictional stories and the message that was created or the message that was conveyed. I mean, there's talk about the marriage. Well, in the Bible, in the Old Testament, it talks about if a woman, if her husband dies, the brother of her husband who died he must marry her. Why? Because the first husband died before he had children. So the brother must marry her so that he can give her children. That's that's in the Bible, y'all. That's in the good book. Or another story of a man that rapes a woman and then is told to pay the father of this woman 7 shekels or whatever it is, and then take her to be his wife, like she's his property. This is the book that you're getting your definition of marriage from? Come on. Come on, Matt Walsh. You're smarter than this. I can tell. You're a very intelligent guy. You're just believing some goofy stuff. Honestly, this is so goofy that if you told me that you believe the earth is flat, I'd be like, well, I figured Matt Walsh probably believes the earth is flat and we didn't go to the moon. What else do you believe, Matt? All right. As always, cuss and discuss down below. Like, subscribe, do all the stuff. I've got a Patreon that helps me continue to pump these videos out every Sunday, every Wednesday. I want to look at my notes here real quick just to make sure I covered all of this. Yeah, I think I hit the high points of what he mentioned in his video of why he thinks that a marriage should be between a man and a woman. And clearly that just comes from the Bible. That's where he's getting his modern day view on marriage is from an old, outdated, fictional, mythical book that has tons of nutty stuff in there. I mean, come on. Like, you read the Bible, a God after man's own heart, David, King David, had many wives and concubines, and then he still had to get Bathsheba, saw her bathing naked. Just the Spirit of the Lord just moved on his loins. He had to have her. That's in the book where you're getting your definition of what marriage is. Dude, get real. So that's my vote. That's my vote. Matt Walsh, complete moronic view on marriage. Peace, everybody.